There.
Yeah, and I had to cancel plans because I was like, I'm working on Saturday. And today it's extremely hot.
Oh no.
Her name is Peleng Mulibati, and she's on Calvin Power.
Are you taking video? Oh.
Sala Musician featuring Simi with the Ntabe Zigude. It is out and about. Good morning once again. And if you have just come in and joined the crew, it's okay. Welcome to the family. We have only just begun. It is the first hour of Out and About, and it is now 29 minutes before 10 o'clock Central African time. So you haven't really missed much, and we are about to get into the cracks of things this morning on Out and About. We are weekend feel good show all about travel, all things light, colorful and fun. That's where we are at this morning. But right now we're about to get a little bit serious. We are talking about the power of the mind, and I am joined with a mindset coach, Quentin Sanders, who is known for turning average everyday people into goal crushing individuals. Having spent 13 years in the corporate field and feeling burnt out, most of us tend to feel like that, especially those people who have multiple projects running at the same time. Burnout is a thing, so I know what it's like. Even after doing his best all the time, Sanders realized that there is more to life and pursuing his calling to become, and he pursued his calling to become a coach. Quentin Sanders has a proven track record with clientele from all over the world, which include America, England, Spain, Namibia, Denmark, Poland, just to mention but a few. We are here now talking to the man. Good morning, Quentin.
Hey, Peleng, how you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, and happy birthday for yesterday, by the way.
Thank you. I went on and on and on about how my birthday is a January birthday, and sometimes we as January people can tend to feel like, our birthday is not a big deal, but I always make my birthday a huge deal. So it's a birthday weekend which will turn into a birthday month spilling over to February as well. Yeah. So today we're talking about the power of the mind, and you're a mindset coach. One is sitting there thinking, what does it mean to be a mindset coach?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. So often I get asked, what is mindset, right? And mindset is really just your thinking and the thoughts, and where your mind is literally set. If you look at a dial, let's say from 1 to 10, is your mind set at 4 or 2, or maybe it's really good and it's 7, and I coach around that. So it's around, a lot of it's around mental toughness. That's what it really gets to, is mental toughness, and it affects everything we do.
Okay, so what makes you different from a life coach and a wellness coach?
So I think life coach is probably there's so many categories, right? So you would still call me a life coach, although I sort of am dialed into business coaching, mindset coaching, and sales coaching. Although it is in its form life coaching, health coaching I don't really do, but that always comes into play. So although it may not be the focus, it always comes up in any case. Health, wealth, yeah.
Health is wealth?
Yes.
I've heard that. So, Quentin, it's very important that, of course, we always touch base with our mental well-being. But you saying you're focusing on business, and you come from a corporate sector. You being here must have had some personal influence, or must have had some personal change, a turning point in your life that you felt, this happened to me. If I assisted or helped someone else, they could also have a better experience. So did anything particular happen in your career, or while you were in the corporate space, that made you go into this space? Is there a particular moment in your life?
Yeah, so I actually left the corporate space to pursue a few other business ventures. That was 2020, and those didn't really work out. What eventually happened was late 2020, I got to a crossroads in my own life. I didn't really understand coaching, didn't really know much about it. And the big thing that stuck out for me was that in 15 or 13 years in the corporate space, I'd never had any coaching, right? I'd always had sales, I was always in the sales side. So always sales training, telecanvassing training, all training, and no real coaching. So that's one thing that really stuck out for me was, why have I never had coaching through my career as in the corporate space? So that's one thing that stuck out for me. The second thing, there's a few things that happened. I found out news about a family member of mine, and then I was also sitting one day and I had a beer in the hand and a cigarette in the other hand, and I was thinking to myself, I was actually looking at my daughter and I was like, I can't tell her she can be and do everything she wants to in life, but I'm not doing that myself. And I realized that, and that was a big wake-up call for me. That then led to some personal development that I invested in, and then it sort of went into coaching. And every time I started looking at it, I just saw coaching pop up, and that's where the journey started. So it wasn't actually that intentional. It was actually to help myself, and then that just evolved, and all of a sudden I found myself doing that, and I it's sort of become a calling now. It's not something I necessarily looked for, if that makes sense.
So that's your sole business now, or you're still
Yes.
pursuing the other businesses that you wanted to get into?
I only do coaching now. So that was 2020. I basically transitioned over about 2 or 3 months in 2021, and then went into coaching full time. I did a few courses. I've had the privilege to work with some of the great coaches in America. I've worked with John Strasser. Recently, I've just worked with David Schwindeman, who's one of the top business coaches. And yeah, that's, I've seen what coaching has done for me. I still have coaching, even though I am a coach. Because I can't see my own blind spots. I can't see my own faults. So,
Okay, so that's quite interesting. We're going to talk about the business of coaching in South Africa, because I've seen it. It looks like it's a big business, maybe in the US or other countries as well, but in South Africa, it's one of those things that we don't see a lot of happening, or maybe it's what is not considered popular. That's why we don't pick up on it a lot. Okay, so today I am talking to a mindset coach, Quinton Sanders, when we're talking about the power of the mind and how to get your mind right so that everything else falls into place. Let's take a little break. We come back with Quinton after this.
The Seed on Channel Africa.
Ooh, there we go.
Radio. This is Channel Africa. Modern Continental Radio. This is Channel Africa. The African Perspective. Her name is Beleng Mulibati, and she's on I'll Check About.
And we're back with Andrew. You see now, the name Andrew happened earlier on, and
I know, they confused you.
It happened earlier. I'm like, okay.
like I always
But
say.
why Andrew though? Do you look like an Andrew?
No, I'm not sure. Maybe I do sound like look like an Andrew. I always say, listen, you can call me anything, just don't call me for money, okay?
It is Quinton Sanders this morning on Out and About, and we are talking about the power of the mind, and he is Africa's leading mindset coach. All right, so when you do your coaching, what are the core things that you make someone aware of? And I know it differs from one person to another.
So the main thing was, look, most times when clients engage with me, there's something going on, right? There's something they're struggling with, something they want to change, or they have some problem, whether it's in their business, in their personal life, it doesn't really matter. So I always say this: if we're gonna meet, I just want to be super intentional. So what is it that you want to focus on? So that's where I start always on that. One of the core principles that I focus on is the understanding that in life we're either being a victim or an owner. And we've got to understand that first, because if we don't understand that, then it's very difficult to change things. the cool thing is once you realize that you are being a victim and then you're not maybe seeing it, then we can change that. And that's what's cool about it, is then you see the realization that we can, whatever that you're struggling with, we can create something new.
Yeah.
So you're not stuck. Although you may be seeing that, thinking that you're stuck, you're never actually stuck. Yeah, there's actually, so, you know, I always compare it, there's a story about the Golden Buddha out in Thailand, and I'm going to give you the short version, but basically what they found was they were moving this monastery, and they found this clay Buddha, and they needed to move it, and when they moved it, they cracked it, and when they tried to repair it, they basically saw some gold underneath, and what they then found was this gold, this clay Buddha was actually made out of solid gold. Okay, and in the Burmese, about a few hundred years before, they protected this golden Buddha by covering it in clay, and that's how they preserved it from being raided and stuff. The point of that is, that's the work I do with my clients, is they already have everything, it's just that they don't see it. So we remove the clay. The clay can be removing limiting beliefs, thoughts and ideas that aren't helpful, that are holding them back. And I always say this, the same thinking that got you to where you are now is going to be the same thinking that holds you back. You see, because for you to get to the next level, you can't use that same thinking, so we have to change that. And once we do that, that's when my clients just fly.
That's actually true. For you though, did it take coaching to be where you are, or you just do coaching once in a while just so that you can also just, I mean, I guess it's just don't take, because I always feel when you're a psychologist or psychiatrist, you have to listen to other people's challenges, but now for you to take off that load, you need to see someone, you know. So is it the same journey with you as well?
So coaching is a little bit different, I guess, different to sort of therapy and one of those, but 100%. For you to be a great coach, you have to get coaching yourself. You see, I can't take my clients where I haven't been myself. So if I'm not able to work on limiting beliefs and all the things that are holding me back, it's very difficult to coach my clients. So I always say that you can't take somebody where you haven't been if you're not a coach. So the coach is, here's the other thing, I know how valuable coaching is and how powerful coaching is. So it would only make sense that I would get my own coaching. So to answer your question, I also I invest in my own coaching full time. This is not just every now and again I have coaching. I've just come out of a coaching agreement now, like I said, with David Schoenemann. That was a 6-month agreement, meeting once a week. So it's intensive.
So now let's talk about the business of coaching now. Is this your livelihood? Is this, one could say, I am a professional coach, I'm making money off it, I'm based in South Africa, and this is the only thing that I do. Can one say that?
Yes, so I do this full time. I don't do anything else.
Okay.
I've got 1 or 2 corporate clients, but the majority of my clients are actually outside of South Africa. I think it's also the fees, and that you mentioned earlier with the US, and that they've adopted the idea of coaching or seen the value of coaching, I think, a lot more. I think we're sort of still not quite seeing it in the corporate space, but it is definitely starting to change with the whole mental wellness. We're understanding now that it's not just about health and stuff like that, it's your mind. Your mind, the rest actually is dictated by your mind. So it works like this. Your thoughts determine your emotions, that determines the actions that you take, and that determines the results that you get. So all the work I do is on the thoughts. That's the beginning.
I'm actually just remembering this visual I came across on social media that I want to actually just bring up, but I want to make sure that it was on the CNBC page that I follow.
Okay.
I found them. It's called the CNBC Make It on Instagram. And one of the things that they were saying, which is quite interesting, the Gen Z and millennials are leading the big quit in 2023. So they're looking at why nearly 70% plan to leave their jobs. And you know, if you're thinking millennial, you're thinking these are people that just came into the picture. You know what I mean? And and now they're leaving the workspace. What is it about the corporate world that tends to be so burdensome, if there's a word like that? That just gets to be the weight is on your shoulder. Most people have always said that it's the 9 to 5 approach that becomes monotonous and it becomes very robotic, that it no longer makes people excited about their jobs anymore, and you become so reliant or probably on the salary that you just feel like, oh, I can't do this, I can't go here. There's no life apart from this income that I make, you know. And for someone that comes from a corporate space, I just wanted us to touch on that in terms of it can feel like a trap when you do the whole 9 to 5.
So here's this thing, right? It's about fulfillment, okay? Because there's a lot of people that are in the corporate space. I coach a lot of financial directors who sit and do numbers all day, and I couldn't think of anything worse, but they love it. But it's fulfillment.
Yes.
So it's always about fulfillment. And when I work with clients, if you're going to be in the corporate space, then that's great. Whatever brings you fulfillment, because what brings you fulfillment and me is two very different things. So I always look at that. I look at going really deep with the client and understanding what that is, and then we can see what the way forward is. But I think the corporate space is changing. I think what happens is creativity. It's a lack of creativity. By nature, we're all creative. I actually had a coaching call with a client, and this person was an FD, and she said, yes, but Quinton, I'm not creative. And I said, okay, but that's not, we have creative as an idea where if you're not painting a picture, you're not creative.
Not creativity, yeah.
No, you're creative all day. You're doing balance sheets, you're doing all this creative stuff. So that's why you're getting the fulfillment from it and stuff. So I think the millennials and that generation, it's about awareness, okay? You could be in the corporate space for 25 years, and if your self-awareness isn't very high, then it'll show. You can be in the corporate space for two years. It doesn't really matter. If you're really self-aware, it will also show. So it's not about how long you've been in the corporate space or not. It's about self-awareness, and I think that's the thing is with those generations, they're a lot more. I don't want to generalize because I hate labels. But I think that's where that also comes from, is they realize that there's another way of doing things. It's not that idea or anymore. That's
I think it's
the one way.
Yeah, they are a generation of exposure. You know, they've got all of it right here.
They've got. I was saying with my daughter. I mean, you know, I remember. I'm going to give my age away, but I still remember having, when I had projects. I had to go to a library. And sit and get the information. Now they got more information in their hand. Yeah.
Now it's just all they need is Wi-Fi and data, and everything is right there.
So they've got so much more what they're exposed to and stuff like that. And it's not always a bad thing. I know it's always social media gets hammered on this, but there's also so much good that comes out of it that we would never have had without it. So, yeah.
All right. I mean, you know, you and I can literally talk the whole day, because this is my sort of thing. I'm sorry, I can't help it. I really love engaging conversations, especially the conversations that creates thinking or forces one to engage with themselves. I feel like the best person to figure out, to heal, to grow, you are yourself. You're your own doctor, I always say. You know, anyone can do anything, but you are that key that needs to turn for everything else to work. And let's take a song now, and then we still continue with Mindset Coach Quinton in studio. This morning is 10 minutes before 10 o'clock Central African time. Those who are all about the soft life, I know you're gonna love this song. It's also titled Soft Life, and it's Nomfundo Mo. Sure.
Do you? I was just realizing, is that where it tells you when we're going to go back on again? That's
and she's on.
No, for this particular show, we don't have to stick to the clock. It's just that we can't keep the conversation too long.
Yeah, you lose.
One person wants to,
Concentration
you need to
stuff.
put in music. We are back from that song by Novundo Mo, Soft Life. I'm still talking to a mindset coach, Quentin Sanders, and we're just looking at how to get your mind right, not just in a corporate space, but just in whatever space that you are at. And one of the things that we touched on just before the break was feeling stagnant or feeling like you are stuck when you actually are not. So how can you see beyond limiting beliefs? So Quentin, I mean, we're only left with 5 minutes, and I know you do a lot of this. So this is where I'll open the floor to what are the things that you want to make people aware of, just generally, not opening up to people that you've worked with before or the type of coaching that you've done. But if you had to speak to an eclectic mix of people on stage from different walks of lives, what are the things that you would mention that you would like to make them aware of?
So I think that the main thing is the understanding is that we're either being an owner or a victim. I know I mentioned it earlier, but it's such an important principle, because if you ask anybody, if the awareness isn't there, they will always almost tell you that I'm not being a victim. Until you start going a little bit deeper, then you realize actually I am being victim with this, and this. The cool thing then is that we can create after that. Once you realize that, hey, I've created this, but that also means then I can change that and create something new for myself. So that's one of the bigger things. The other thing always is I want to share with clients, and that is that a goal is not a place to get to. A goal is a place to come from. So we create from there. So when you have a goal and you want to have a successful business, what does that look like? What is the picture in your head? What does that feel like? The emotions. And I take a client usually deep in that, and we create that state. Once we've done that, then we realize we can bring that forward and feel like that now. We don't have to wait until X, Y, and Z happens, then we can feel this way and that way. No, we can create that now. The other thing is, I'm always more focused on who we're becoming. That's what's important. The goal is actually just, it's a cool thing you got to have a goal, and that's cool, but it's who you're becoming in the process. That's actually the real value in it, is who you're becoming and on the journey. So I always want to focus on that, and I always want to say, clients, people will ask me, okay, what's the main things I should start doing? And the first thing is be aware of your thoughts. Your thoughts are creating your entire world that you live in. It determines how you see the world. It determines the judgments you have of the world. So you got to start with being aware of your thoughts. If you can be aware of that, you're already halfway there, because most people aren't aware of their thoughts. I mean, if we can change that, then we can literally create whatever it is we want.
And it's crazy just how many things actually influence your thoughts. It could be an environment where you live, the people around you, the company it's the same thing, the company you keep and the people around you. Is that, it could be just the environment itself. Is it an inspiring environment, or is it an environment that just, so you need to know who are you, what works, what I do prefer. Fresh air. See, now I'm becoming preachy, because I like this type of conversation.
I always say this, it's about who you're being. That's what I always tell a client. Who are you being right now? Are you being the person you want to be, or you're not? That's what we're working on. That's what we focus on, is who you're being.
Who are you being? Nice. All right, so it's 10 o'clock. Man, I have to say goodbye to you. I have to wrap up this conversation. It's actually 10 o'clock now. And that's my guest this morning, Quentin Sanders. Thank you so much, man, for coming through and chatting to us this morning.
It was really cool, yeah.
Let's share your social media handles quick.
It's Quentin Sanders, SA. So it's just all the handles are the same. Quentin Sanders SA. Yeah.
All right, it's 10 o'clock now. Let's go straight to the news.
Thank you so much. It goes so freaking quickly.
I'm thinking, no, what's going on? But it's gone.
goes
We
so
had just
quickly.
started talking. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And it was such an awesome, so nice to meet you. Can we get a quick photo with
Yes,
you?
I'm gonna do here, but